So now, I guess we'll move on to the next segment. Now it's time for Book Club. We don't have a theme song for Book Club because I think Carrie's just now learning about Book Club.
I'm just now learning about Book Club. I could probably use the Fight Club theme song.
Hey,
you want me to dig that up?
Whatever. So anyway, so what is the first rule of Book Club?
Always talk about Book Club.
That's correct.
There we go.
All right, so let's start.
So...
Anyway, go ahead.
So, what books are you reading, Hank?
Well, I downloaded a book to my Kindle for like $1.25 called Samuel Rawson Gardner's Oliver Cromwell, annotated from 1902. And there's been one reason I wanted to talk about this book is because there's been a revival of sorts regarding Cromwell, the guy left in charge of the aftermath of the English Civil War, and he was pretty much the English Civil War.
Okay.
I'd always been interested in him since I was a kid, and I looked into a couple of articles and more things, recent. And he was known as the Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England. And I've discovered that many of our contemporary historians are trying to make him out to be a power-hungry zealot.
Oh, imagine that.
All right. So what I did was I downloaded this book from over 100 years ago and documented his life. And I think what some of these new historians are failing to see or explain thoroughly is that Charles, the king, Charles I, had pretty much entrenched himself and really believed that he was like, king as spokesman for God. Mm-hmm. And he was stubborn also. So
that didn't help.
It's bad enough when you like being king, right? But then when somebody's like trying to usurp your power, you got to kind of have to.
You got to usurp right back.
Well, that had been the general practice, mm-hmm. But attitudes and philosophies, and particularly in Scotland, had been changing for a couple of centuries already. So, the other issue, of course, was you throw religion into it, and Charles was essentially Catholic, and stuck with that divine right of kings thing, mm-hmm. And he wasn't really into liberated thinking. And he consequently lost his head.
His thinking was liberated then.
Yeah.
It's one way to do it.
So much for liberated thinking. So anyway, but a lot of these post-1930 scholars that I've read tend to deride Cromwell for this act of revenge. But I think Cromwell was kind of Charles had a pretty powerful army, mm-hmm. and as did Cromwell, and I think Cromwell's theory was, you got to cut off the head of the snake, so people will stop following this guy.
Yeah.
And it didn't really do very well for Cromwell, because I think a few years later he was strung up, and his head was at the top of some cathedral, I think, for probably 200 years until it fell off in a storm.
Now
we've talked about this before about in the context of John the Baptist and
yes, that whole diatribe.
Someday I'll actually do a segment or focus on Oliver Cromwell's head. That'll be fun.
Now, the movie Oliver, was it based on the life of this Oliver that you're referring to? Seriously.
No. Oliver was he was a kid.
Oh, different one. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're a song and dance person. You know Oliver, right?
I just remember a cute little boy and lots of troubled times and people being really mean, and he was really mean, and I don't know, maybe he grew up to be really mean. I don't know. Leave me alone. Wow.
Oh, goodness.
It was a good movie, though.
Well, yeah, I won an Academy Award.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks as if we'll on that happy note about Oliver Cromwell and Oliver, we'll end this edition of the Not Too Late Show. It's now history.
Ladies and gentlemen, especially the ones with the kids, be sure to read to your young kids every night or after school to keep their brains stimulated and their hearts strong. And don't be afraid to read something to them that might be a grade level or two above their current level of maturity. You never know what they might take an interest in. This is Keisha Carson on behalf of the Not Too Late Show. God bless and good night.
Cabin way down by the creek. He ran through the dust into his bare feet. But they didn't know that one fine day that he would rule this USA and be the best leader in all the land. Yes, young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. Young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. He walked many miles to school every day, and no kind of weather could keep him away. Learning to read and learning to write. He whipped any man in a wrestling fight. He whipped many of them with just one hand. Yes, young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. Young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. Now he was admitted to the lawyer's bar. People seeked his help from near and far. He could talk a country mile in an old courtroom, make a man laugh whose life was doomed. He out-talked Douglas or Fancy Dan. Yes, young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. Young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man. We had a big war while he's president. Finally won with the U.S. grant. He heard both sides of the battle cry. Hated to see those soldiers die. He hated to fight his own Southland. Yes, young Abe Lincoln made a tall, tall man. Young Abe Lincoln made a tall, tall man. Yes, young Abe Lincoln make a tall, tall man.
Some days inundated, veilings free from saturation, departures raised with no masquerading. There will be teachers that die by their own hand, punished that push headlong for atonement, friends and followers devoted to living. There will be watchers that plow from the confines, and those committed to society circles, unweary cogs with no cadence of virtue. There will be right, there will be wrong. Drop of a hat and it's already started, just like that and the deed is done. What I'd give for that hat to be medicine. The time is now to be on. Machinations unforeseen, sleepwalking sense from a bad dream. No promenade walk in the parkway. There will be catchwords